Alright guys, so today we're talking about the best selling cards under $5 or less. It's the Yu-Gi-Oh! Penny Stock Market Watch. I did want to check this out real quick because I think this is finally no longer going to be a penny stock. If you guys saw my top 10 deck list, you'll know that number 9 was Mariness, and this fits relatively easily into that Mariness package. There's a lot of different things you can do with this card. And yeah, this is, I don't know why it's still considered a penny stock. I guess the market price is $4.91. Yugioh Swarm is pretty high up. That's pretty interesting. Let's take a look at Blaster. So Blaster has taken an absolute nosedive. That's wild. Okay, so last year, this was 6 months ago. So about 6 months ago, it was 521. And now near mints are selling for 4. And that's very interesting because I would pick this card up. I know it might not seem like it's a good buy, right? Because it's going down, 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 down over the last month. But the reason I'd pick this card up is because it could very well go to 3 soon. Once this card's at 3, though, its value is not going to be much better. And it might get a reprint soon, too, if they start coming off the ban list. So that's very interesting, though. Dragon Rulers are really not making any impact at all, which makes sense. Like, the idea of the Dragon Rulers being just super overpowered. I mean, the deck came out in, like, 2012, maybe 11. I think it's 2000. I think like early 2012, if I'm remembering correctly. It was 10 years ago. And they got limited very quickly. I think the babies got limited first, and then the bigs. So it was like big and littles were limited, and the deck was still borderline tier 0, with all of their cards limited. So that's why all the cards got banned and were banned for a very long time. It took like the littles like at least 4 or 5 years, I think, to come back. And the bigs, like 2 of them are limited, 2 of them are banned. But I think they're coming back. But I don't know if they're going to really make any impact. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has really progressed super far since then. And okay, so with Sky Striker, I talked about this last week. You're going to have basically a week. You know, this was the ban list jump, obviously. You're going to have basically a week where this is going to climb. And either it's going to take a nosedive because Sky Striker isn't very good, or it's going to go up even higher. And this isn't even a penny stock anymore. So hopefully you picked up your Sky Striker cards then. If not, I would just wait because eventually they'll get reprinted again. I mean, most of the stuff did get reprinted. Like Sky Striker is still relatively budget friendly. Linkage is getting up there. Obviously Afterburners, Engage. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Engage here anymore because it's no longer a penny stock. But Sky Striker is a pretty good deck right now. So is this deck, Sword Soul. Sword Soul did get buffed a little bit, actually from the ban list, which is interesting, because it didn't get hit at all. But it got buffed because of Denglong coming back. Now, when we take a look at the 2 Sword Soul cards, one from Burst of Destiny, one from Magnificent Mavens, the rule of thumb is always, and obviously rules are made to be broken, but the rule of thumb is always the oldest version of a card is most expensive. Right? Now, when we say rules are meant to be broken, the way those rules are broken are if there's it's like an OTS pack. A lot of times OTS packs, or like a duelist pack, a dual terminal pack, an astral pack, especially astral packs. Those will be a little bit more expensive, even if they're not the first one, or a rarity bump, right? And then when we take a look at these 2 cards, this doesn't fall under any of those categories. And if it doesn't fall under any of those categories, then, you know, you definitely want the older version. Now, I will say one of the best-selling cards under $5 or less is the Magnificent Mavens version. And if we look right now, the lowest listing, that's probably like a mod play. No, near mints for 3. Well, I guess plus shipping is 4. And then this is 385. And yeah, so they're relatively similar in price, with obviously the original version being a little bit more expensive. And like I said, the ban list bumped this deck up because it didn't get hit at all. Like Desire, like, it didn't get indirectly hit. Like when Desires went to 1, like Mo Yi, Emergence didn't get hit, and this deck's probably never going to be banned. So it's actually a really good package to pick up. Actually, if we look at Sword Soul real quick, there's a lot you have to get with Sword Soul, because you have to get the Sword Soul stuff, which Mo Yi is well over 5. Chi Chao, there's the Magnificent Mavens versus 2. Starlights are a lot, obviously, and that's really it. And then when we take a look at like the cards that I didn't realize there was that many of those. The cards that get ran with Sword Soul, this is still a $50 card, even with 2 new reprints. Hopefully it'll get another reprint sometime soon. This is probably relatively expensive, but I think the Tenny stuff itself isn't ever too expensive. I mean, the Synchro 8 is. The links are all $, which is relatively interesting. So yeah, so it's still a relatively budget deck, but you are going to probably spend like anywhere from $200 to $300 on a Sword Soul deck. But the cards that are going to make the deck expensive, right? Make it go from the 100 mark to the 200 to 300 mark is the cards like the Barons and the Denglongs, and the Tenny stuff, which you could put in other stuff as well. Module multi-roll is making its way up. This was pretty random here. I am going to do a video talking about, this doesn't fall under that category, but I wanted to do like best cards to get that are on the ban list, and Danglong, I think, falls under this category of a card that's on the ban list and only has 1 printing. So I'm going to be doing a video talking about all these cards. It's just taking a bit to build, obviously, because there are a lot of cards on the Forbidden and Limited list. It's just going to be the Forbidden and Limited cards. I'm not going to talk about semi-limited. But, you know, when you see something like what happened with the Sky Striker cards, right, where it was 24 cents a month ago, and now it's $1.58, you think to yourself, man, I could have bought 1,000 of those at 25 cents a pop. That's, you know, if I'm good at math, that's 1,000 divided by 4 is $250. And then sold all of the 1,000 for $1.50, right? And so that, you know, I think it's 100 is 1,050. Does that sound right? It could be something like that. That sounds right when I say it out loud. It might be 1,500 too. Could be 1,500. Anyway, point is you know, you sell them all for $1, right? So you go from 250 to 1,000. That's $750. You know, lunch is on you. But how were you supposed to know a month ago this card was gonna go to 3? And Engage is going to go to 2. Like, you can't know that, right? So that's why I was going to do that video, just so we can get ahead of the curve with that type of thing. If that's something that you guys would be interested in, make sure you guys subscribe, different things like that. This was probably the best deck that got hit. This was probably the deck that got hit kind of the softest. Gigantic Sprite. Did it just sneak under? Is that why it's here? No, so it did just kind of scoot up. It is well on its way to no longer being a penny stock, though. So we're actually going to go to page 2, by the way, because a lot of these cards are not penny stocks, unfortunately. It do be like that sometimes. So this was actually something, MCool40, I don't know if you guys subscribe to him, probably, right? Because he does market watches, too. So you guys probably know his top 10 list. He had this either as an honorable mention. I actually think it might even have been in the top 10 at the very like high end top 10. Like, this is definitely a tier 1, tier 2 archetype. This sort of like plant dot deck type archetype. And when we take a look at Sun Avalon stuff, Sun Avalon Dryas, this could definitely be an interesting buy. Like, yeah, it's moving up, but it's kind of leveling out. If you could get it for 4, I would definitely pull the trigger. 450 to 4, I would consider. Over 450, I wouldn't pay for that. portion of it. Now, there's a lot of stuff that this deck needs, but just to take a quick look at some of it, you know, a lot of this stuff is relatively cheap. What is the they don't run the Link Monsters. I think, does it run the Link Monsters? I'm not really quite sure. Sunseed. Sunvine. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for Sunvine. When we take a look at Sunvine archetype pennies, literally penny stocks. And then when we look at Rika, gets thrown in there a lot. I guess what we can do too. Oh, this is interesting. This is $15. So the Rika stuff's the expensive stuff here, but it's still not like that expensive. But what we can do is go back to this, scoot over here. This was 2 weeks ago. I mean, you even saw it if you looked at it real quick. I mean, but this whole thing is $183 and 46 cents. I mean, the side deck is really cheap. Like this, I don't know what the heck that is. I don't know how the heck. I mean, send one card from that's. I guess it looks at your opponent's hand by trip. That's actually not that bad. That's actually not that bad. I like that tech there. Polyanosis is the basically solemn judgment for plants. Cosmic. This is searchable, and it's for super heavies. Evenly just came out in the structure deck. Kumungus is one of the better kaijus because it's really small. But the most expensive card here is Jasmine in the extra deck. If your life points are higher than your opponent's, as is the case with the Romage. And that's the thing. Like, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse sometimes when I say this. But it is, important to remember when it comes to your deck building as well. Because even though it is a market watch, I do like to talk about like deck building and the meta and different things like that. I've noticed a lot of people recently with their deck builds, because this has just been the vibe, have just been running like whatever this type is deck. It's almost like there are so many great archetypes in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because Yu-Gi-Oh! When it first started wasn't like that. It was just like this type is the vibe, right? But then like with Gladiator Beast and Six Samurai, and we continue to move forward, it started to become more of just like an archetype based game where it was like you have to run archetypes or you're bad. And it's actually evolved now to where you see like Sunvine is in here, Cactus Bouncer is in here, Rika is in here, the Therion plant monster is in here. Sometimes people will run Regulus with this card as well. And then also like Aromages are in here, right? Because this says you can tribute a monster. This card points to special summon a plant monster from your deck. So it's got the Lone Fire effect, essentially, which is really, really good for the archetype, especially considering it's just 2 plant monsters. So it's just something to keep in mind for your deck building. But really, I mean, you don't really need talent. You don't need talents. You do need this card as at least a one-of. So there's not really a lot of ways to make this deck that much cheaper. But for $183, you can get probably a tier 2 strategy. That's not too shabby at all. That's not too bad. So I think that Sun Avalon, Plant, Rika, whatever you want to call that deck, is a really, really good buy right now. Because for me, I'm always just about value. Like it's yes, like Kashtira, Sprite, those are some of the best decks in the room right now, but they're very expensive. And I don't know if those decks, the way the meta is shaped right now, I don't know if those decks are good enough to make up for how expensive they are. But I take a look at a deck like Sky Striker, like we've just talked about, this Sun Avalon deck that's on the screen, even like Floandary, Sword Soul, their cost is pretty proportionally great to their level of quality. So here's my 2 cents on Sun Avalon. Let's take a look at this card. Wild Survivors has hit the market. I'm going to be doing a deep dive into this on Friday for the regular market watch. Make sure you guys subscribe and check that out as well. This card is destroyed by battle. A card like a special summons card. If a card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can use special summon this card. During your main phase, destroy a monster. Special summon a normal monster. Also, you can special summon. That's interesting. I don't know if this is. really that great. It is a level 6 tuner, though, which is pretty wild. It's not very restrictive. That Dragon, Dinosaur, Sea Serpent, Worm. I don't know what that's about. And when we take a look at the it was $2 upon release. It got all the way down to under $1, and is now sitting at over $1. So that's obviously like that's the spot. Like if you could get this card for $1, I would pull the trigger. But even $1.25 is not terrible. It could inch its way back up. This is definitely, because it summons from the deck, one of those type of cards where if someone, it's very possible someone could find a crazy combo with this and the card could take off. But the fact that it summons a normal monster, I wouldn't get too overly excited about it. But it is something interested where, like, if you can get it for $1, you buy like 5 for $5 and it ends up being $5 and you made a $20 profit, right? That type of thing. This has been moving while we've been here because this was not this high before. I don't know why people like this card, but if we've talked about this card a few times now, so I'll just mention it briefly. If you think this card's great, like I always say, spend your money how you feel. I don't think it's that good because it is an anti-link card. There's not really like that many great link decks right now. I think the best one, like Sprite's pretty good. Like Sprite Tri-Brigade, Sprite Evil Twin is a pretty good link based deck. Super Heavy Samurai do summon a lot of link monsters, but most of the best cards are Xyz and Synchro monsters right now. And this does kind of counter that, but it's a trap card. Like there's just so many cards that do the same thing but better. Just my 2 cents on that. I'm kind of curious about D-Shifter because D-Shifter was like crazy for the longest time and then got back-to-back reprints. I wouldn't even look at this. I wouldn't even sniff it. Like that structure deck, it had a lot of like really good reprints. And there are a lot of like one-ofs in this structure deck. That's very interesting. So it's sitting at about $7. That might not actually be that bad when you see like a Ghost Bell, Ash, Shifter, and Foolish reprints. And then we take a look and we notice, oh, that's right, Rainbow Bridge is only in this structure deck. I think Crystal Bond has 2 reprints. Yeah. But there was another one as well. I think the Quick Play spell, which is right here, Awakening. I'm pretty confident that's only in the structure deck. Yes. And so I know Rainbow Bridge of the Heart is as well. I know Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon is as well. I think this card is too, Crystal Miracle. So like the best cards for Crystal Beast control are in this structure deck. And the biggest thing too is right now it's under $10, right? So there is a possibility with all of the good reprints that we have, because Cosmic is also in here. Cosmic is also a pretty good reprint, right? So my thought process is potentially in a year or two, $1, $5, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then if this does get to 5, which it's already at 390, 358, could be climbing. I don't see why Ash would get a reprint anytime soon. It's already at 4. Even if it just stays at 4, right? That's already $8. And then all of these Crystal Beast cards, these random Crystal Beast cards, because Crystal Beast are a really popular archetype, really popular fan favorite archetype. Like this card is also an ultra rare that was only printed in this structure deck. So I would just take a look at the Crystal Beast structure deck. $6.58, $7. It's almost a penny stock, and it's been going down. That's crazy. Like if you can find a way to get this for $7, like $6.58, the market price, I would pull the trigger. But like under $10 feels really good as well. Like really good structure deck. And as far as Dimension Shifter now is concerned, yeah, the reprints really hurt this card, right? Like even though I like the structure deck, I would still steer clear of the structure deck version of this. You got the Prismatic Secret Rare that people obviously like, and you have the ultra rare as well of Dimension Shifter. You could probably go ahead and pull the trigger with Dimension Shifter. What is this? Ultra? Yeah, the ultra rare from the tins. Under $1, just to see. Because if this card doesn't get hit on the ban list and doesn't get a reprint anytime soon, I could see all versions at the very least being $1, and this version maybe even being $5. So D-Shifter feels like it's a really actually solid buy right now. it's a card that has gotten used a lot. It's a very particular card. But what I've noticed too, like Flo Wanderers comes to mind, Gren Maju comes to mind when you think of a deck like D Shifter or a card like D Shifter. But also I've seen it in like Sprite decks. When Tier Elements was Tier 1, Sprite was running D Shifter because it doesn't get hurt by D Shifter that bad. Castira is running D Shifter right now because it doesn't get hurt by, actually kind of almost wants their cards to be banished because it can grab cards from the banish zone. And they definitely want your cards to be banished, right? So Dimension Shifter, it finds its way into decks, this card is probably a big reason why we were able to get D-Fissure and Macrocosmos back, and it wasn't really that big of an impact. But I think all copies of D-Shifter are great buys. I would steer clear of the Crystal Beast Structure Deck one unless you're getting the Structure Deck yourself. But let me know what you guys think. What are the best-selling cards under $5 that you were looking for? We actually found enough stuff to talk about on the first page. Even though a lot of these aren't really penny stocks, we found enough on the first page to talk about, so that's pretty cool. So make sure you guys click that like button, show your support for the channel, subscribe for even more content, but most importantly of all, have a good day.